You are listening to Insights with Kathleen. Please join me while I share my insights and experiences with the hope to inspire you to look inside of yourself for the answers that you already have. As with all information we receive, take what speaks to you and leave the rest.
And we're back.
Hey guys.
Sherry, it is so lovely to be with you again.
Why, thank you. Lovely for having me.
Lovely for having you.
Yeah, I'm a present. Enjoy it, people.
All right. Well, let's unwrap that present, huh?
Please, yes. You
That
asked
just
me the
sounds
thing.
so weird, didn't it?
Unwrap that present. Reminds me of a couple things. You're so bad.
Yeah, today is my bad day.
I love that.
All right. So what do we have for today, Sherry?
Well, what we have for today is kind of a weird mishmash of things. So I was like meditating in the morning and I was taking a walk and something was telling me about loving myself. And, you know, sometimes I feel like, I don't know, have you ever had that feeling where you think you've already completed a goal? Like my New Year's resolution a couple of years ago was to love myself. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, done. I'm done that New Year's resolution, on to the next thing. And then I'm like, I'm back at a state again. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not loving myself. I'm really self-conscious, really, in a lot of aspects of my life. And sometimes I don't show up for myself, or sometimes I'm just like, I don't know, I'm like insecure about my appearance or my personality, and it just shows up at different times. even though, you know, a couple of years ago, I was like, that New Year's resolution is done. So I'm just like, oh no, what's wrong with me? I thought I was done with this.
I think that's so funny. That's the part I'm laughing at is I made this New Year's resolution and I think I'm done with that. Which I find hysterically funny because we're never going to be done with that New Year's resolution.
Damn it.
Because the thing is every day we need to show up to love ourselves. And every day we need to make it a conscious effort to love ourselves. And it comes in so many different ways, in ways that like I'm still discovering.
Right.
You know, you were sharing a story with me about a friend that you were visiting and you kind of felt like that person wasn't even there. It wasn't really even just showing up for you.
Right.
So sitting there and continue, and I'm not saying that you did this, but if a person were to continue to stay with this other person who's not showing up for them,
right,
in essence torturing yourself, because like how do you engage with somebody who's not engaging back, right?
Right.
And now you're like, well, this really sucks.
Right.
Loving yourself would be, hey, friend, you know what? Looks like you got some stuff going on. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna call it early, and you know, give me a ring when you're ready to.
I'm ahead.
You know.
Yeah.
And then you go. That's loving you.
That is.
I mean, like, who knew? Who knew that was part of loving me? That I didn't have to torture myself.
Right. Yeah.
Because I want to be a good friend.
Right. And like when I was doing the visit, sometimes I internalize these kind of things, and I'm just like, maybe it's a me thing. Maybe like I'm uncomfortable with like silence or uncomfortable with certain things. I'm like, maybe it's like a me thing. But something in my gut was telling me, I think this person hasn't shown up for themselves, so I'm not sure what to do.
And sometimes that is you need to follow your gut, and every situation is different, right?
Right.
So we can't generalize all situations in this way, but you need to follow your gut, follow your instinct. You're doing a reading, in essence. We all could do that. Like
right.
When we walk into a room and we're kind of like sizing someone up, and we're seeing like on the outward appearance of that person of how they appear, like they may appear like they're not in a good mood, or they're really in a good mood by the way that they're behaving.
Right.
So that's indicator number one.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get a little closer, and then if you start to engage in some conversation or dialogue with that person, so then the way that they respond back, that's indicator number two.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it's taking in all those little nuances, from tone to, level of volume to eye contact to body language to all of that. You take in all of that information, and then you follow your gut. Like, what are you receiving there, and how's it making you feel?
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. For the longest time, I think, I went to therapy for a couple of years, and like, I think the hardest part was like going with gut feelings. My therapist would be like, Sherry, what's your gut say? I was like, excuse me. Like, what is that? What is an intuition? I don't know what that is. I was so focused on like my mind and just like, oh, how does this mathematically make sense?
Or like if you're like some other person who's like, your mind is in the driver's seat instead of your gut, Because like your gut would be like, oh, this person is in a place and this is about this person.
Right.
Their reactions to you has nothing to do with you.
Right.
But your mind's like, oh my goodness, did I not wear the right shirt today? Oh my goodness. Well, did I look at them wrong? Oh my goodness, am I not good enough? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You know what I'm saying? Like the mind can tell us some stories.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and it's funny because like I don't know what happened. Like I remember when I used to work. Well, I still work in customer service, and like I really did feel for my my coworkers because like they would take like what the people said to them very literal in a sense, like make it like, oh my gosh, this is a reflection on me. I'm like, no, you're just the you're just the only person they can react to at this moment instead of punching a wall. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think for me with customer service, it's kind of that way in a sense. I'm like, okay, I gotta be like, this is about me. They don't know me. They don't know my name. They don't know anything about me. I'm just the closest person to react to them.
But it's funny. I'm glad that you brought that up because that's actually a great practice ground.
It is
for what we're talking about, right? Because it's really good to practice that with strangers.
Right.
Because you know that stranger, this person you're just having the very first interaction with, has no idea who you are.
Right. Exactly.
Right? No idea who you are as a person. So when they come up and like kind of like what you're saying, and they have some sort of an attitude.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if it's a good attitude, a bad attitude, an indifference attitude. It doesn't matter. But whatever they're presenting to you, then you get to practice that this is really about them. This attitude is about them. This is not about me. There is no judgment on me because they don't know me.
Right. Exactly. And it's funny because people will come up to me, like my coworkers, and they're like, how do you get so many people to laugh with you? How come so many people talk to you? And like I almost tell them I don't talk to everyone. You know what I mean? It's not like a hi, I'm Sherry, how you feeling? Like I don't do that to everyone. And it's not even like I'm like really finely tuning like, okay, they're engaged like this and they're looking like, I'm just kind of like, this person seems to be bubbly, I'll engage. This person seems like they want to leave, so I'm gonna let them leave.
Yeah, and some of that, I think, what it is you're tapping into them, and you're really allowing their energy, because we've talked about energy before,
right?
And you're allowing their energy to kind of drive the interaction,
right.
So now, when you're showing up for yourself with a friend or a family member or somebody who does know you a little bit better. Right now, you practice with these strangers, right? That hey, okay, I'm just gonna allow them to drive that a little bit, and I'm being loving of me because one, I'm being respectful of me,
right?
I'm being respectful of someone else, so it's loving of me, loving of them, right? And you're having that type of engagement, and you know that if the behavior coming at you is less than pleasant, you know that it's about them, not you, but you're maintaining, you are maintaining the respect level. And even if they are disrespecting you, then hopefully you're setting up certain boundaries, and they could be very subtle boundaries, such as, you stop engaging with them. You just become very blank, right? And then, and again, it's a practice ground because they could be mad at you all that they want. It's still not about you. It's all about them.
It is.
It's their dis-ease, their displeasure.
Yeah.
Their resistance that's just they're trying to dump it your way, but you're just a rubber billboard that's just kind of bouncing back, but you're being loving enough to give them the space to be
right.
So now
okay,
like when you come over to the friend family side who does know you, right, and then those interactions are happening. And then as you're making certain assessments, and again, all of this happens in split seconds. You barely think about it. It's just you kind of know it. We all just know it because that's part of relating.
Right.
The key is much like how we started out with that example, if the person just isn't even showing up for themselves, so they don't have the ability to show up for anyone else.
Right.
The most loving thing of you and the most loving thing of them is to give them the physical space. Right. And to get yourself out of the situation.
Right.
Making polite excuses. Hey, look, when you're ready to rejoin or you want to chat, give me a call, or you're not abandoning them. You're just, you're lovingly giving them the space to be in whatever space that they want to be in. Right. But you're being more loving of yourself by not torturing yourself to remain in a circumstance that makes you so extremely uncomfortable because you're like, what do I do? It doesn't matter what I do. This person's just not doing, and this person's not receiving, and this person's not engaging, and this person is like exhausting right now.
Right. And I guess for me, I'm just like, I think you're right, because I think before, Now I'm starting to get more used to doing it, because before I used to feel very guilty, like, oh, I'm abandoning them, or like I'm cutting them off, or I'm doing this and that. I'm like, but you kind of taught me like, hey, that's loving of you. And if you're not showing up for you, you can't help in that relationship either. So it's something I'm trying to.
Yeah, it's like the airline, the flight attendants on the airplane telling you, if there's ever an emergency, you got to put the mask on yourself first, so that you can still stay breathing and conscious enough to put it on somebody else. Right. It's kind of like that same way of being.
Yeah, and I think I've had that with with different levels of friendship, right? And there's just some where I just was like, okay, this friendship isn't resonating with me, I should leave. And I think, I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast. I've talked about it with you, and how to respond when people do get like kind of in your face about it. Because like that happened to me. I was in a better space, so I was just kind of like, I know this is good for me, but I remember when I first did it, and like people would make me feel guilty about it, like, why are you abandoning me? Did I do something wrong? Why are you leaving? And this and that. And
you make me think of Dr. Heidi Green.
Oh, the new sponsor this week. Hello, Dr. Heidi Green. What's up?
Yeah, so for those of you listening, just Google her. She has a little website out there. She's a psychologist, and she has these great little inspirational sayings, and they're very grounded, and they're very loving of oneself. And I'm not going to quote this quite verbatim, but in that sense, it's kind of what you're saying. It's like, especially if you are calling somebody out on their behavior or their treatment of you, right? And then they kind of react more harshly because you just pointed out their bad behavior, so they're kind of lashing on you for calling it out instead of checking themselves to say, oh yeah, that was bad, I'm so sorry, right? So it's really, again, not your problem, it's their problem,
right?
But I think that comes with confidence and practice, and that's why I was saying earlier, practicing on these strangers for just receiving some of these heavier energies or these heavier kind of emotions that could come at us, to know that this really isn't about me, this is about them, so it's not to say like also in relationships, I'm not saying that like we totally turn off and say, oh, you're upset at me and that's your problem. But it's not, because you have to relate with the person, right? And if you love somebody, and they're certainly having an issue, and they're bringing that issue to your attention, then of course you need to lovingly look at that, hear them out, understand.
Right, that's different.
Right?
Yeah.
I just needed to make sure that I said that, because sometimes I talk so general. It's like, well, come on, read my mind.
What do you mean you can't read it? Come on now, it's Insights with Kathleen. I'm Kathleen.
But when you are faced with, let's just say that it really wasn't something that you did, or that you felt that it doesn't necessarily warrant the degree of emotion and attitude coming your way, right? Then that's where, maybe take a breath.
Okay.
As this person is kind of in this onslaught, and I think for me, because I grew up with that. I grew up with that in my face all the time. And yeah, it was really hard to navigate. And I lost me along the way because, because it's strong energy that comes your way. And if you don't, if you're not planted and standing in your own power to say, hey, I'm worthy. Hey, I deserve just as much respect and love as the next person. Right. And if you're not fully grounded in that, it makes it a lot harder for these stronger emotions coming at you from somebody else, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to acknowledge that. This is not easy if you're not fully embracing and loving yourself, to be able to come back and push back on those emotions, right? Because and that's why we talk about self-love. That's why we talk about, hey, put you first. And there's nothing selfish about that, as long as you're not hoarding resources, as long as you're not hoarding other things, putting yourself first. There's nothing wrong with that, because you have to take care of you. You got to make sure you're okay. You got to make sure that you're loving of you. Love you first, and then you'll be amazed at how much more love you have and how much more capacity you have to put out there not just to put out there, but to receive.
Right. And it was, I think we had a conversation not too long ago, and I guess I'm like trying to tether friendships. Friendships are great. And I guess the way I used to go about friendships when I was a little younger, a couple years ago, when I was a little younger,
Me too.
it was like, hey, I'm a golden retriever. I love everyone. I'll tell you everything, which whatever. I mean, it wasn't that I was like telling them very, very personal things, but I'm like, I'm an open book. I love everyone. The same way I be with Kathleen is the same way I be with so-and-so. And now I'm quickly learning, I don't think that works very well. And I didn't know that.
Well, we all need a little mystery in our lives.
We do. And I've noticed with other friendships, like say if I'm like telling a friend about this, but then where I was telling a friend about that, I always was judging myself. I'm like, am I being fake? Am I being disingenuous because I'm not, sharing the same, you know what I mean?
I do. I do. And then I also know on the flip side, like when you're sharing the same thing with that friend and that friend and that friend, then all of a sudden you start to feel overexposed.
Right. I did. Yeah.
So I think that, it's kind of like turning into another topic almost, right?
Right.
I think it's about having that judgment of who's your real friends opposed to who's your acquaintances, and who are your trusted peeps, who are the ones who really resonate with you.
Right.
That really have, and I don't want to necessarily say the word earn, but I think earn is the word.
Right.
Who's earn that level of trust for you
Yeah.
to share, right? I know for myself, I too always feel like I'm an open book. Look, I'll tell you anything that you want to know, but at the same time, there is like this safe that has like 20,000 locks on it that'll take you a little while to get the locks to unlock.
Right.
And at face value, I can be very open. But as soon as a behavior happens or an incident happens to where there's a level of betrayal, where there's a level of some discord that maybe that other person has caused, to show me that, oh, you know what, this person probably is not that trustworthy of me, right? Of me as a person. And so then I start pulling a lot of stuff back, and it would take a lot to get me to share. Not to say that I'm embarrassed with anything that's happened to me, or I love to share what I'm thinking, as by this podcast you all could tell, right?
Right. I think that's the name of the show, right? Kathleen?
I think so. Yeah, kind of. Uh-huh. Yeah. Anyway, Insights with Kathleen.
You heard it here, folks.
But the thing is we all have our own way to go about it, right?
Right.
And it doesn't. You don't always have to be fair with the level of you that you're putting out there to all the people that you engage with, because you don't want to tell your deepest heartfelt secrets, right, to an acquaintance.
Right.
Or I know that you had shared with me about somebody who's like, oh, Sherry, tell me everything. Tell me anything. And this is a person who then comes back and criticizes everything that you say. Right.
Yeah.
So, hey, that person you probably don't want to be sharing the same level of information with as you would somebody that you feel safe with. Right. So I think that that's the measure. Somebody who's going to love, respect you, honor you, right, and see your worth. Yeah. Then they're the kind of people that you want to share more of you with, if you feel so inclined to. Those who are back there just waiting for you to share all kinds of information so they can judge. They do. Because they're so busy judging themselves, right? They have these unspoken judgments of themselves that they can't even address because they don't really love themselves enough. Right. That they'd rather put it out onto someone else and see all those aspects of themselves that they're not happy with, read them onto someone else, and then judge that way. Right. I have a level of compassion. I mean, a big level of compassion for people who behave in that manner because I feel so sad for them. Right. That's truly how they're really feeling about themselves, and they don't even know it. Right. And my heart hurts for them. But it doesn't mean just because my heart hurts for them and because I have that level of compassion for them doesn't mean I'm going to subject myself to that. Right. And that's self-love.
I love that. And you kind of taught me about, like, when I was hanging out with this particular person, they were like, oh, tell me, like, all your secrets or whatever. And I was like, whatever. And like one of them, like, I was like, oh, this incident happened, and then it made me cry, and then I felt fine. And they almost took it as like oh my gosh, yeah, if you didn't do that, you wouldn't need to cry. And I was like, No. I wanted to cry. I needed to cry. I needed to express that.
Crying's good.
Crying's great. And I think, I think some people like kind of judge it as like oh gosh, you were at your breaking point and you cried. Oh, what a wuss.
I don't know. I think we need to start a new revolution
Of
and call
cry.
it the crying revolution.
It's funny. I don't know if it was Japanese culture or Asian culture or somewhere in that area. Don't quote me on this, but like there was a culture, and like when the men cry, it's like a sign of strength. It's like a wow, he's so strong that he cried.
We need more of that.
And I think that's good because I think it's just unhealthy to be like, you know what, I'm going to bottle it up and beat things up because so many people I know do that.
Well, I heard this years and years ago, so I couldn't even tell you where or what, or probably not even quoting it correctly. But this is going to be in my words, okay?
All right.
So there's a reason why our eyes and our tear ducts are on the front of our face. So that when we're crying, people can see. Right?
Yeah.
So whether it's joy or distressed, but it's so that people can share in that.
Right. Oh,
right?
yeah.
So-
It's a psychological study or whatever.
There very well could be. But the thing is there's a reason why we have tear ducts, and it stuck with me so much because I was always a crier. When I was a kid, I think it made my dad so uncomfortable. And at the time, I didn't understand it.
Right.
I just knew that I needed to cry, and I was crying.
Nice.
This
Good for
distressed
you.
me. I'm crying. You hurt my feelings. I'm
crying.
crying. I'm happy. I'm crying. So, but at one point, my dad told me I was crying made me ugly. Like when you cried, when you cry, you are ugly. You look ugly. Oh my goodness, yes. So, I spent most of my childhood because we lived in a very tiny 3-bedroom house with 6 people. Okay?
Right.
So there was 2 people to these tiny little rooms. So there was no crying in my bedroom because I shared it with my sister.
Right.
I'd have to go in the bathroom,
Oh.
put a towel over my face and cry like crazy. And then put some cold water on my face and hope that it's not red when I get out because apparently I'm really ugly and nobody can see me cry.
Oh no.
So
God,
was
that's
was
so
that
bad? Oh my God.
was that the right way to go about it? Probably not. But my dad didn't know what he only knew what he knew.
Right.
So I think for me, my determination is I wanted to change the generational trauma. I didn't want to carry that
That's
forward,
awesome.
right? So I pushed really hard. So even in business now, like you fast forward to now in business, women, we get emotional. We can't help but feel feels, right?
Feeling the feels, guys.
Whether we're embarrassed, or at least I know for me, whether I get embarrassed or I'm frustrated. Sometimes when I'm mad, I'll cry.
Right. Oh, yeah.
When,
I've heard of
when
it.
men are mad, they want to punch. Well, when I'm mad, well, actually, I'd like to punch too, but generally it comes out in crying. So, and we're in business, we're in a meeting, something's a little emotional, and we start to cry. All of a sudden, we're apologizing, we're stopping, we're like trying to compose ourselves. Why can't I just feel the feel? Why can't I just, So it's funny because God bless some of the managers that I've had, because I'll announce at the beginning of the year, this is what I'm working on for this year. And the one year I announced, I am working on just feeling my emotions.
Good.
And not holding them back.
You'll be less constipated that way.
And it was a man, and he's like, okay.
He's like, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, kind of like that. But like sometimes I would be so emotional. We have these very inspirational type meetings where we'll have people who come in and they'll share their stories, or I'll get really emotional just for the success stories for the different people around the company. And like, I'm trying to hold back all this emotion because all I want to do is just cry because I'm feeling everything,
That's
and
nice.
so I just let the tears, like, I don't fight it. And you know what? I really am not that ugly when I cry.
Nah, you're pretty good. I've seen you cry. Like, it's one Jesus tear when I wrote a song about you and performed it. I got one tear. Which
You're welcome.
I wanted more, but whatever.
Well, I'm still programmed to kind of hold some things back, but that is something that, like, I'm working on. It's just not to hold it back. Like, it's not that I'm crying hysterically. So it's when you cry hysterical, yeah, your eyes puff up, your face turns red, you get all blotchy, But when there's a certain emotion just coming through, and the
It's
tears
just the
just want to flow. I just let it go.
It's
and
nice.
so, and then I don't care if somebody's going to look at me while I'm crying. Well, God bless them. Maybe they'll come over and give me a hug
Right.
or just check in on me. But nobody says anything. I think it just makes people really uncomfortable.
Oh.
But anyway, that's a little side note. We'll come back to that later. But let's get back around to what we were talking about.
I don't remember.
Self-love.
Oh, self-love.
See, I caught you, girl.
How do you do that? My gosh, you're great at that. Self-love, yes. I just find myself feeling very insecure, and I think it's just because you have people in your life. I'm not saying it's all the people in my life, but even past experiences, which I'm trying to go through, where I'm on this new journey, I'm doing this new thing, and people will just be like, oh, you're making this up, or oh, you're like, they'll just invalidate what I'm feeling. And I guess a lot of the times when I would have a gut feeling about something, I'm just like, I think I'm right about this, and people are like, no, you're wrong. So I'm trying really hard to like break through with that, kind of like what you said with your dad saying like, you're ugly when you cry. A lot of people by default are like, oh, Sherry's lying, or Sherry's making this up, or Sherry can't do this. And it's a lot of
the thing is your truth.
right.
Nobody else knows your truth.
True.
You know your truth.
Yeah.
And that stand in that.
You're right. You're right.
That doesn't that feel better already just to state that? Stand in your truth, Sherry.
I really want to stand in my truth, and I feel like my truth is on this lovely journey that maybe some people don't understand, and
they don't. Do they need to?
No. I just gotta do my own thing.
Do your own thing. It's right, and do your own thing. The expectations of how things are to show up.
Right.
That's the other thing too. There's nothing wrong with having a certain level of expectation, because when you now you've heard me mention Esther Hicks before, right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So she talks mostly about the law of attraction. That's really what they share. Most of the information that they share is all wrapped around that.
Right.
So in the law of attraction, there is a certain level of expectation you need to have. So it's not that expectation is bad all the time. We need to have it, and we should have it. So when you want something to manifest, you believe that it's going to manifest, and you put it out there, and you have that expectation, it's already done.
Wow.
Okay? And then you let it go, and you stay in that feeling, and that feeling, how do I say this? So you want to stay in the feeling of that it's already done, that you're there, right? And sometimes you may have to put your attention, something a little more broadly, so that you can stay in that feeling and not focus so much on the thing that you're trying to manifest. Because the idea is you put it out there, you say, hey, bam, I want it. Perfect example is I was standing in my kitchen one day and I said, hey, look, universe, God, you said you would always provide for me. I need this, and this. Like, I basically needed a whole new house.
Right.
I needed new electric. I needed new siding. I needed a new roof. I needed a new kitchen. My counter was falling apart. Like, every time I wipe it, I just needed all of these things.
Right.
And I just threw it up there and I said, well, you said you'd provide. I never thought about it again.
Wow.
I never thought about it again. I think it was probably about a year later.
Yeah.
Maybe a year and a half later. I don't even remember the timeline. See, because I quit thinking. I just threw it up there and
You're
walked
just like,
away.
here it is. All right, let's go.
This is what I hope to
That's
have.
what I want.
Next thing you know, the universe delivers. And I think I may have said this story on here before.
No, go ahead. It actually reminded me of something.
So the tree from Hurricane Sandy falls in my house.
Right.
And most people would be totally devastated. I'm cheering. Hey, universe is showing up and it's going to give you everything I asked for. Thank you very much.
I love that.
Anyway, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say that actually reminds me of something that happened to me recently. So it's almost, I think you told me this or somebody else told me this, either my mom or you, about like when you you actually said this, I think. When you let something go, it actually brings you, I don't know if it's more blessing. No, I think my mom said this.
Your mom said it.
Yeah, my mom said it because it was more Christian or whatever. But yeah, she's like, when you let go of things, when
you love something, let it go. If it comes back to you, that one.
Well, Well, not necessarily, kind of, but like when you let something go, you allow more blessings to flow. So I quit doing my podcast, and I was like, oh, this sucks. And then I got nominated for an award at school. I was like, wow, cool, for like a scholarship thing. And then I got offered, well, I'm not offered it yet, but I got, I don't know what it's called. What is it called when someone wants you to do something for them? Well, anyway, someone put me in the running to be an editor in this club, and it's great.
Somebody nominated you for it?
Yeah, I guess somebody nominated me for it, kind of. So, I'm going to do the application, but they said, like, oh, you're like a really good candidate. And they're like, hey, here's what it would entail. You would do a podcast. You would help other people make podcasts. You promote them. You do videos. Pretty much he was listing the entire resume of what I have, and it's a paid position.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I just put that out in the universe not too long ago because I'm like, I'm sick of working at my job. Like, I want to work at somewhere where, like, I do what I love and I don't have to sit or stand in one place, and I get to do things I love and just do all that and be creative. And then this shows up, and I just, all
right, so answer me this.
Yes.
So you put that out to the universe.
Yeah.
Right? How many times after you put it out to the universe did you contemplate it?
Did I contemplate it? I don't even think I thought about it, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
I was just like, here, and it just showed up. And I think for me, another thing, I was like, oh, I want to, like, I'm in this better place, I feel like. And I'm like, oh, when I go off to school, I would love to meet, like, people, that resonate with me.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what you did.
Yeah.
Right? You did exactly what I was talking about, and what Esther, all her little YouTube videos share
right.
of her different workshops and stuff, is that you put it out there and you basically let it go, but you stayed in the vibration of it as if it's already happened, because you
right.
were excitedly thinking about all these other potential new relationships. You're looking
right.
forward, but you're not concentrating all of your energy onto that one request, but you're staying in this higher vibration, or as Esther likes to call it, staying in your vortex. And
I
you
love
know,
that. Staying in your vortex. Sounds so spooky, but I love it.
It's kind of.
Where was Esther like 3 years ago? Because I did the opposite of what she said to do. I used to, because I was like, I really want to be like a famous singer or whatever. And I'd put that out there. And I guess for me, I'd be like, hey, I'd be focusing so hard on that. And I'm like, why isn't it happening? This, that, and the other thing. And I'm just like, you know what? If I put all this expectation on this, what if the universe is like, I have something even better for you to do? Mm-hmm. And that's not that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just do my thing. And then I ended up doing podcasts, and I ended up doing other things. So.
Yeah, and now that brought you around to me, and I am so grateful.
Oh, why, thank you.
You're welcome. So, Sherry, now we've hit and we've talked about self-love. And some aspects of what that looks like, because there are so many different ones, right? So in our previous podcast, we had talked about body image, right?
Right, yeah.
That's a level of self-love.
Yeah, you're right.
Feeling the feels, that's a level of self-love.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Look at all these connections.
It's like reading Rainbow. I love that so much.
So do you feel like you're in a good place right now?
I feel like I'm in a good place right now. Yeah, I'm going to take all these and like put them in my sack and go to bed and sleep on it. I don't know where I was going with that. But yes, I'm going to make sure, and I have to keep in mind, like, hey, self-love is an act you do every day.
Well, I think the thing is too, especially if you come from a Christian background, right? We always believe that we have to self-sacrifice on behalf of somebody else to truly be loving, right?
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you, no.
That's beyond nonsense.
If we really are going to if we focus on Christianity, right, and the basis of it is about Jesus Christ and how he died on the cross for all of us, right? Well, before he got there, let's look, because we mainly focus on him dying on the cross and rising. But
Easter's coming up soon, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. Happy Easter.
Yeah.
But if we look at the journey of his life, and all the times where he stepped away, right? He stepped away from people. He stepped away from his apostles. He went off on his own to meditate. He took time for him. He was being loving of him.
Good for Jesus.
Right? But do we see that as selfish?
No, because
Well, no,
Jesus.
because in some areas or some institutions may wrap that up as he's praying to God. Well, yes,
He's
but
also
that's
chilling.
still him taking time, giving space to him, giving himself a chance to rejuvenate, to regenerate,
Right, exactly.
to take care for himself.
I like
right?
that Jesus did that.
Yeah, he did, and that's the example that he really wants us to take away. Okay, I'm probably going to be like, a lot of people are probably going to hate me on this one, but I'm going to be so bold and share this too.
Okay,
Since
go
we're
ahead.
talking about Jesus and we're talking about love, right?
Okay.
So he really did not come here to die on the cross. I hate to break it to you. I know this sounds so drastic, right? He came here to teach us. To teach us about love, to teach us about some of these principles that we talk about here, right? To talk about being in touch with yourself, being grounded, following your intuition, following your gut,
right?
Praying, right? Praying, meditating, whatever you want to label it or call it, and being connected to spirit,
right?
Having that connection. That's what he came here to teach us.
Wow.
He came here to teach us about love and all of that. It's just the way things unfolded. And yes, he probably saw it all coming.
Right.
But was hopeful that maybe, different decisions would be made so that a different timeline would play out. Right?
Humans.
But at the same time, the timeline that did play out that we know in history, in this timeline that we live in, he's like, okay, this is where it's going. I'm willingly going to play this out with you. I'm willingly going to allow, because he was very powerful. There's many things, and that takes a whole nother conversation to get into a whole other aspect. But yes, he died on the cross, and he wanted to show us that he's bigger. We're all bigger than death, right? And then that's why he rose from the dead, to show us that death, it doesn't hold power over him. And if we're sons and daughters of God and we're brothers and sisters of Jesus, that means the same for us too. So let's just wrap this all back up into self-love. And self-love is just remember that you're bigger than anything that happens to you.
I like that.
And you're more powerful than you even know.
I like that even more.
Yeah. So stay in line with the spirit, and work on that. Work on, practicing that self-love and setting good, healthy boundaries, and giving people the space to be who they are. And if they, at any given point in time, are not able to show up for you, right, to engage in a relationship, then give them that space, bless them, and
right. Don't do the whole.
Don't torture. Yeah, self-sacrifice is not.
Because that used to be a thing in my family. It was just.
Well, not to cut you off. Sorry.
No, you're
fine. Mean, there is one thing about sacrificing, right? So if you want to sacrifice some food to help feed somebody else because they're starving and they're hungry,
right? McDonald's.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, or you can have a fry. I mean, I don't know, but there's nothing wrong with sacrificing, some of your money, and I wouldn't even say sacrificing. I would say just giving your abundance, right? Because that's really what it's about. It's not about torturing oneself, right, to help a fellow human.
Yeah.
Because where's the production in that?
Right.
Where's the love in that?
Exactly. It's not loving. It's just kind of
no, you just say, I feel like, and this is maybe a little judgy on my part, but I do feel like that if we use the word sacrifice or self-sacrifice, then I kind of feel like we're positioning ourselves to not be in the most positive place.
It's almost like we don't want to do it, It has to come from a heart of giving.
Well, words come with vibrations too, right? And then through the centuries, what vibration is that term carrying? How about let's just give, and know that we all live in abundance. So if I'm self-sacrificing or if I'm sacrificing, that means there's a level of lack that's attached to that. Well, hey, I'm abundant.
Right.
I want to give.
That's what usually I do.
And I have more than enough to keep giving, right? So if I believe that means that flow is just going to keep coming, and the universe is going to go, oh yeah, you do. Here, girl, we're just going to send you some more so you can keep giving.
Funny enough, I don't know what happened, but what did I do? I bought something, And I was like, you know what? Whatever. I don't want to buy this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I gave it out of like a nice, hopeful place. And then the abundance just started rolling. My parents did my taxes, and I'm getting like $300 back or something. So that makes me very happy.
Nice.
Abundance at its finest.
Well, I learned that lesson of abundance from someone who, it was many years ago, and I was just amazed. Like, they didn't know where their next paycheck was coming from.
Right.
But they fully believed that if they gave, more was coming their way.
Right.
And I watched this person, because they paid everything in cash because they couldn't get a credit card, or they just didn't have a credit card for whatever reason.
Okay.
They had no real telephones.
Yeah.
They were in all definition of the world. They were poor.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. But they still would give. They still would give
yeah.
money. They still would give of themselves. And then they were a salesperson, right? For some low end company or something. But I would watch this abundance come flowing their way.
Yeah.
And they would just keep giving, and that abundance would keep flowing. And that really sat with me. So I started practicing along those lines of not focusing on the lack,
Right.
but focus on the gratefulness and the gratitude of what is. And then that way it sends a message saying, oh, she likes to have this. So let's send her some more.
Right.
So if you focus on what you don't have, then the universe or spirit thinks, oh, she likes not having, so we're just going to take more away.
Right. No,
I'm oversimplifying it, but I've seen that in my life, that if I focus on the gratitude of what I have and being so grateful, more just comes.
I did that a lot. Like when I was in my teen years or whatever, I would always like just give it to a charity, tithe, whatever. And I didn't make much money. I had a part-time job at this thing. So it was like it was a good portion of my paycheck. And my parents were like, you do that? And I was like, I don't know. I just do it. I just like doing it. And they would just see like, I would just get an influx of money or just opportunities and stuff. And they're just like, wow, we kind of want to do that too. So they would do it on and off. So
how cool would that be to apply that to your own self-love?
Ooh, I like myself. So let's keep liking myself.
Yeah, I love me. I'm so grateful to be loved. I'm so grateful to be loving. I'm so grateful that I can embrace myself in this way.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. And I think, it's loving of myself to be like, I've been going through a transition, different like relationships, whatever. And I'm going to be loving of myself to say, hey, if something doesn't resonate with me, I'm going to keep moving. Because before I was like kind of resisting it. And I was like, am I a bad person because I don't want to be around this person, but they're so negative or this and that. And it's just like, you know what, Sherry, just let it flow. If you don't and you want more of that's going to come your way. And I don't want that.
Well, here's the bottom line. Especially for those who are, or even me, I've been here before. I'm not here now, but I was there.
Yeah.
Where I'm just wanting somebody to love me. Like I want to have a significant other.
Right.
Why do I want a significant other? Because I want to feel good. I want to feel good that somebody loves me and I love them, and I can be mushy, and I can be romantic, and I can be all these things, right? This great big high. But the thing is until you really fully embrace and love you,
right,
no one's going to make you
feel
loved, right? Because no one can make you feel. The feeling is up to you. You're
That's
the one
you.
who drives the feelings.
Right.
The cool thing is, though, is when you love you and you're in love with yourself and somebody else comes along and they resonate with you, they amplify the feelings that you have for yourself. So do a little experiment. I recommend it for anyone listening. Just even if it's just going back and thinking about past relationships or whatnot, think about, hey, so this aspect of myself that maybe I haven't fully embraced, how did that play out? How did I project that to someone else? And how did I feel about that? Like, was it harsh? Was it not great? Did I really love it? You know what I mean? And how did I see it showing up in someone else?
Right.
Because relationships help us in that way.
Yeah.
So now, like, of course, it's taken me many years, but right now I'm kind of loving me.
You should. You're great.
And like I'm now at this point to where I feel confident in me. I love me. I have fun just on my own.
I love that.
Like, because
That's
it doesn't take a
great.
whole lot to entertain me. I laugh at my own jokes, which is even more funnier.
I love that.
Anyway.
You're hilarious. You're hilarious.
I'm hilarious. But I'm not so, it's changed. So I'm not so bent on, oh, I gotta find a boyfriend. Why can't I find a boyfriend? Why can't I find just a good man?
I don't know why I
mean,
can't find a boyfriend
where
either.
are they?
I don't know where the
Oh,
boys
they're all
are.
taken.
Oh my God, it's funny you mentioned that because you're right. Whoever you're with amplifies how you feel. And I don't know what energy I was sending out. I think the universe just thought it was funny. But like at least 3 women in a row came. They're like in their 40s, 50s or something. They all come to my register and they're all telling me about how much they hate men and how I should never get married and that they hate them. And I was like,
and you're like, oh, don't need to worry on that because I don't dig men anyway.
I don't really do that.
I'm into the girls.
Yeah, right. Like the universe is like, Sherry, see, you like girls. I'm like, I really do.
Now listen, you know what? Men are great. There are some really good men out there. There are a lot of good men out there who are looking for really great women. Just think positively. But the key is,
yeah.
And the same with you. There's a lot of great ladies. But the key is get to know you first.
And I think that's...
And love you so that you can then show up as you.
Right. And that's kind of what I picked up from when they were talking. Because obviously, I mean, one person told me they were married for the 5th time. So I can't even be like, that's... Yeah, I can't be like, that's the men's fault and all these things. And I'm just like, oh, universe is like, hey, love yourself so that way the right one shows up. Because if you don't show up as you attract things that you don't even want.
Well, I think that even with her 5 marriages, I think all the right people were showing up at the right time. I know it sounds really crazy, but sometimes it's just something she's still working out. And once she works that out, then she might not have such an influx, right? Don't laugh at me.
An influx. She's just working it out. I'm sure she is. I'm sure those people showed up at the right time. That's kind of how I feel. I can empathize. I've been the same way too, where everyone would have the ongoing joke that I had a very specific type that was a little basic, maybe. And I'm looking back at those relationships and people I've liked, I'm like, oh, the reason why they're so similar is because I'm still working out feelings for certain particular people or certain aspects of my life. So once I did that, of me, yeah.
Of you. Mm-hmm.
And then once I was able to do that, I'm like, oh, this person's different. It's not like the other people because I'm in a very different spot.
See, Sherry, like as we started with customer service, it's
Right.
really all about the customer. Well,
Right.
Guess what? It's really all about you. And self-love is really all about you.
It is.
Thank you so much for bringing this topic to us this evening.
Of course.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope that you found something valuable that you can carry with you. Have a good night.
Thank you for tuning in. Remember that you are bigger than anything that you are going through or anything that is happening around you.